Figure it out.
Hello, this is Adam Koralik with Figure It Out Productions. The following video is part of our Quick Shoot series. Hey everyone, and welcome to the... I can't believe this. We suck. We still don't have a title for this thing. This is going to be a joke forever, man. There were people that were throwing out titles for this, like the Dream Podcast and some other ones that were thrown out. But, yeah, I don't know. Nothing we've really stuck to yet, but whatever. So how you guys doing? I'm, of course, joined by Remi, Munier, and Senkbeil. What's up, guys?
What's up?
Hello, hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How was your month? What were you guys doing?
Let's see. What have I been doing? I took apart a Super Nintendo and started making it portable.
Yeah, that's cool.
And I visited a couple of local game stores because I've not visited a single local game store ever.
That's weird.
Well, I mean, I transitioned straight from when I was very little going to EB Games, back when they were just EB Games, to just buying things off the internet. I didn't really have any other kind of transition period.
All right. Yeah, I obviously go to a lot of retro game stores. I love doing that.
Well, it was very cool. They didn't seem quite as crazy as the ones you've been to, though. The ones you go to feel like they have games falling off the ceiling. It's so packed.
I don't have.
Yeah, I mean, well, how were they ultimately?
No, both very nice. One of them, their prices weren't fantastic. You could probably get a little bit cheaper on Amazon, at least currently, but they weren't terrible, and they had some hard to find games sealed as well, which is pretty nice. One place had a huge Xbox collection, original Xbox collection, which is why I sent you a picture earlier.
Yeah,
I mean, it was
you did. I appreciate that.
It was like I sent you one wall. They had multiple walls of original Xbox games.
Whoa.
Well, we're going there.
One too. Yeah.
I got to come down there at some point. We're going there.
Yeah, so that was cool. And I went to another one that was much smaller. It felt like they had actually bought a store that was probably an old EB Games or something, one of the really wedged in ones. And they were called Apollo Games. And you walk in, and they basically had a bunch of couches and arcades and 64 and other things set up, so you could just plop down and play games and hang out if you wanted to, which is pretty neat.
Sounds fun.
That is cool.
Price-wise, I mean, I feel like it was a little bit expensive, but I don't know, maybe that's just Austin.
It could be.
I don't have.
Remi, how about you? What you been up to?
I've been doing crazy stuff like playing video games. Can you believe it?
That's so crazy.
I never get to do that. So.
No, really.
No. Cruelest irony.
And I've been singing too.
You sing?
Well, just a hobby.
Nice.
Oh.
I can't do that, like, at all.
Yeah,
I have
no talent
no
for
understanding
singing.
of music.
I think I'm okay.
Well, you beat me already, so enjoy.
Yeah, my win.
I was out in San Francisco recently. That was when I got to play video games. I got to play the BioShock collection, and I got to play Mafia 3. Oh,
yeah.
Those were fun. Yeah, I had a good time.
Did a video on that,
was,
right?
I mentioned it and showed a little bit of footage.
Yeah.
In the latest playload, excuse me. Yes, but that was a good time. I mean, for embargo reasons, that's all I could show. But yeah, it was
Understandable.
Pretty cool. All right, boys. So you guys ready? You want to start talking about some of these subjects we've got here?
Let's do it.
All right. The first subject that we've got comes from you, Chip. You basically asked the question. Do you want to just introduce it since it's your subject?
That doesn't matter to me. Go for it, Adam.
All right. You basically asked the question, if you could pick any new type of game to be developed for the Dreamcast, what would it be? A fighting game, an RPG, a 2D game, a 3D game? We're assuming there's no budget and the quality can be fairly high. So with those, I kind of thought about this. And with those, first of all, this is a really good question because it's September, and that means it's the Dreamcast birthday month because September 9th, 1999 is the traditional birthday, so it's a good one to start off with. I will be having a Dreamcast birthday video, although by the time most people hear this, that video is already out. Yeah. So if you want to hear it earlier, you can go to Patreon, but otherwise, so I thought about this, and what I would want to see is like an action-adventure platformer very similar to the first Sonic Adventure. Like, it wouldn't have to necessarily be, Sonic Adventure 3, but something like that, to me, would be ideal if you're giving me like a traditional Dreamcast original run type of game.
Okay. So what about that kind of game do you feel should be the next one that you'd want to see on the Dreamcast?
What do you mean?
As in, like, so you obviously picked those specific genres. Are you feeling that they're severely lacking? Because obviously the latest bit of Dreamcast is just full of shmups and that kind of stuff, which is great to see more games. But I mean, why did you come to that conclusion? Why is that what you would want to see?
Because I really like those kind of games in general. Sonic Adventure was always one of my favorite games on that console.
Oh,
and just
me too.
That style of platforming game, which is there aren't as many of any anymore, especially for the Dreamcast. You don't get them at all.
Right.
So if you could give me, just any choice, that's what I would pick. It could be a new IP. It doesn't matter. Just some sort of 3D action adventure platformer would be my first choice.
Okay. Remi, what about you? Have you thought about it at all?
Yeah, but it's actually pretty much the same. I would really love to see a Sonic Adventure 3. I'm a big Sonic fan. If you've seen my picture, it's Sonic character that I made. So
yeah, it is.
You can pretty much know that by just looking at that. But I think I would also want to see some action RPGs, actually. Like a Legend of Zelda. Well, not a Legend of Zelda, but something like that.
You should try Pure Solar. That is a new Dreamcast game that came out back in December 2015. I'm sure, it's not exactly the same, but it is the only RPG that they've put out in the independent Dreamcast scene.
Which is cool.
Yeah, I mean, that's more of a traditional turn-based RPG, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
I believe it's not quite the...
I'm not really...
You're asking like about an Ocarina of Time if you do 3D, or are you asking like the traditional 2D Zelda, one of those?
2D or 3D would be just fine by me.
Which one would you want first, Remi? Which one would you want first? A 3D one in the style of Ocarina of Time, or would you want a 2D one in the style of like Link to the Past?
That's hard. I think 3D, because
3D?
there's not many action RPG 3D games, I think. Not enough.
Right, but you mean, if you think about it, yeah, it's kind of true, because I mean, you've got the big budget ones that come out, and you've got the ones that are sequel after sequel for a certain franchise. You don't see that many following that style, especially, obviously you're not going to see new ones on retro consoles, because it's just too hard to do.
It's not cost effective, yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Well, I've been thinking about that cost effective part. I'm curious, let's assume someone was doing it as a hobby, right? So
okay.
you cut down the cost aspect. They're just doing it over a couple of years. I think it's still a difficult aspect because you can use free software. You've got Blender to do 3D type modeling, but to me it's more of a challenge of it's just hard to get 3D to perform well and run well on old hardware, right? When you had people whose basically their only job was to optimize these games to run on this hardware, and if you have someone that's like, oh, I never made a 3D game, and I want to try to make a 3D game on this retro hardware. That's challenging enough. I mean, just making a 3D game on modern hardware, where you can take a frame rate hit, or you can have like incredible horsepower to handle what would normally be a frame rate hit. You got an old system. You got to figure out all the tricks they had, because they probably have like OpenGL 1 still on there. They don't even have 2. So I mean, I actually don't know what the Dreamcast uses. Do you know what version of OpenGL they use?
No, I have no idea.
Not at all.
Because OpenGL moved from fixed pipelines to programmable, which is where you get all the shaders and everything else. But before then, it was pretty limited, and I don't know what Dreamcast used actually. But anyway, point is, I imagine it's just really hard, even with like Callisto OS, which is not actually an operating system. It's more of an SDK, which I think other people have based their Dreamcast games on, because it's pretty much the only one out there. It's just hard to do. It's hard to make a real full 3D game.
Yeah, it's people always, and whenever I do videos on the new Dreamcast games, that's often a question people have, like, why aren't we getting games like that? And well, Chip just kind of answered it. In addition to the economics, it's just really, really difficult.
Yeah, because I mean, these days, you bring up Unity or you bring up Unreal Engine, or people use engines basically, and those engines give you a lot of the physics, the logic. Oh, this person ran into this wall. All the logic to detect a 3D shape ran into a wall and will not move. And all that's kind of available. and easily documented. You go to these older systems, there's not much documentation. They've got tricks where it's like, okay, they don't support floating point very well, they don't support this number very well, or they don't support doing this math, or they can only handle this much in memory, so you have to like swap it. It's like, it's very challenging, and I imagine it's too much for most developers just wanting to try to get a Dreamcast game made. Maybe one day you'll have some people that come up with a 3D game, but I can't imagine it being at the level of, for me, I'd say Skies of Arcadia. I'd love to have another game like that, which is a traditional RPG, but it's a 3D one that kind of tried to leverage the Dreamcast. That would be a fun one to see. But I mean that level of detail that you'd have to have in there is just, it's so time consuming. I can't imagine anyone on their own or even a small group doing it that quickly, unless literally they save up a lot of money and that was their full-time job, just to make that one game.
Yeah, the closest we got was Xenocider. You remember that? That was a project that the Kickstarter was unsuccessful, and I guess they're talking about bringing it back again, but that's all the information I have. I don't know about the follow-up to that, because that happened when I was out of the country, so I was just kind of missing some of the news.
Stop being busy.
Sorry. But yeah, no, so... but yeah, Xenocider was like the first attempt at a 3D Dreamcast game, and unfortunately it failed, at least the Kickstarter. I kind of feel like that set kind of a dangerous precedent, because
that's too bad.
It didn't succeed even on a low budget, and that kind of unfortunately tells you, like, you probably will never see 3D ones on the Dreamcast until it gets to the point where it's so cheap to produce for that, it's not even a big deal. But I don't know if the Dreamcast independent scene will live long enough to see that day.
Dude, it's never going away. Dreamcast is going to be here forever. You know that.
I'd love to believe it. If you had told me in like 2003, or 2004 when the first independent game came out, that we'd still be sitting here in 2016 talking about new independent titles, I don't think I could have possibly believed you.
I don't think many people would have.
No, I mean, that's so ridiculous. I mean, a little spoiler for the video that's coming out, although, again, most of you have already seen it at this point. There were 5 brand new Dreamcast games this year. 5.
That's nuts.
Which is kind of, I mean, for a system that's completely dead, like, let's be honest, I love the Dreamcast.
It's a zombie.
Yeah, exactly. It's a zombie console. It had 5 games this year. That's almost, one every 2 months. And it's just like, that's surprisingly good. It's also probably the most games that have been on the console since like maybe 2002, 2003.
And the neat thing is the quality has gone up with a lot of these games. The earlier ones were just little simple things. Then you get Pure Solar and other things out, right? Which, granted, Pure Solar was a port from I already forget which system it is.
It was the Genesis, but they completely redid it.
They completely redid it. Textures. I mean, there's a lot of effort in it, which is why it took so long to be produced. But I mean, you're seeing that. Obviously, you saw Xenocider, which looks like it was pretty simple in the 3D logic, but I mean, it's still 3D, which is incredibly challenging to do. And other games coming out, which they're trying to push the limits of the Dreamcast more and more, right?
Well, yeah, on a budget. Let's be fair.
On a budget.
Push
the budget limits, right? Which is pretty neat.
So I was thinking about this, the original version of this question with that in mind, like what's realistic that we could ever get. Because my fantasy of Sonic Adventure 3, much like Remi's, is never going to happen.
No, it will never.
Hey, we've seen a billionaire that has a lot of Dreamcast just to say, let's make a new game.
Yeah, aside from that guy, I would want to go for something more realistic, and I have 2 answers for that.
Okay.
I would like a 2D platform with 3D background elements, kind of like a Stall. Did you guys ever play that? It was a Sega Saturn game.
Oh, yeah.
No.
It was just a traditional 2D platforming, adventure game, but they took advantage of the fact that the Saturn did really good 3D background hardware, and it looks badass, and it was just a fun game.
I think it never come out in Europe.
Sorry, Remi, go ahead.
I think it never come out in Europe.
A Stall? Really?
Yeah.
Oh, you should import that, man.
I've tried to look for any PAL origin ones. I never could.
Wow. Well, I was just using it as an example, but basically it's just a 2D platformer game, but rather than like a Sega Genesis or Super Nintendo one that always stuck on a 2D plane, it had a very nice 3D background images. It wasn't like, say, Bug for the Saturn, which would switch between 2D and 3D. I don't know if you guys remember that, but that was a cool game too. But I wouldn't really expect that out of the Dreamcast.
I know nothing of the Sega Saturn, so
I'm trying to describe them generically. So those are just examples that came to my mind. The other thing I would like to see.
You can throw up pictures of each one.
You just look up screenshots real quick while we're doing this. But no, the other thing I would like to see, although people explain to me this is likely impossible, is brand new 2D fighting games on the Dreamcast.
Really?
That shouldn't be impossible. They had a whole open source 2D fighting game engine called Beats of Rage, I think, or something like that.
Beats of Rage was it was kind of Streets of Rage style, where it used hit detection, obviously, but it wasn't a fighting game in the sense that you had all your characters balanced. Like, I'm talking about Mortal Kombat style fighting games, one-on-one. And that's, I guess, the reason that it becomes really difficult is that fighting games are actually apparently really hard to make. Because all the characters have to be unique, but they also have to be balanced.
Mm-hmm. That's the hardest.
And it's more of a game design challenge than it is a Dreamcast challenge, right?
Yeah, I guess that's true. Mm-hmm. But the question was, what kind of genre would I like? And I think fighting games is what I would want to go for, only because the Dreamcast has not seen a fighting game since whatever the last official one was, maybe like Capcom versus SNK 2 or something?
Nope. Yeah, I don't know. I know I have like what are those other ones? Like I had what are those games called?
There were King of Fighters games on there.
There's like Last Samurai or something.
Yeah. A lot of the stuff that SNK made. Last Samurai, King of Fighters like 98 through 2002 are all on there. Yeah. I think 2003 is on there, but I'm not sure. I don't remember offhand. But yeah, so that would be my answer. If we were going to go with something more of a practical budget, that's what I would want to go for. Okay. What about you guys? Or do you not differentiate?
I still think a hobbyist could make a 3D game. But to be honest, I was pretty satisfied just getting pure solar, right?
Yeah.
I'm a big RPG fan, traditional RPG fan. So any game like that appears kind of satisfies me. So I guess I already got my wish. I'm the lucky one, right?
Hey, congrats.
Yeah.
I would like a beat them up.
Say again?
I would like a beat them up.
A beat 'em up?
Beat 'em up. Oh, you mean like okay, so that's kind of what he was talking about. It was Beats of Rage.
Beats of Rage, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what that was, except that wasn't like ever really released. It was just kind of, distributed online.
Yeah, distributed online. They had an engine around it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Problem with Beats of Rage is that it used a lot of pre-owned material,
yeah.
And that's why it could never really be pressed and publicly released like that.
Yeah, understandable though.
Yeah. But I remember that when that shit exploded. That was really cool because like everybody was making their own Beats of Rage games. Like, here, we'll take all the X-Men characters and this is X-Men Beats of Rage. Like everybody just kept making their own games out of it.
Yeah, fans.
It was fun. All right, so I think that's good for that subject. Happy birthday, Sega Dreamcast.
Yay!
That wasn't exactly the point. Well, Remi, this subject was yours. Do you want to introduce it, or do you want me to do it?
Oh, no, you're the host.
Well, it doesn't mean it was your subject, man.
You do the work, Adam. Do all the work.
Sorry, guys. Sorry, I suck. Okay, so, Remi, you wanted to talk about new Sonic titles. Basically, since Sonic Adventure 2... Sonic's kind of had a hard time. Are there any games basically that stick out for one reason or another since Sonic Adventure 2? Either because they were legendarily bad, as I'm sure we can talk about, or that they were surprisingly good, or even really, really good. Do you have any? Anything that specifically comes to mind?
Sonic and the Secret Rings.
Never ended up playing it. That was the Wii game, right?
Yes, that was the most disappointing thing that ever happened to me.
I'm looking right over at my copy. Like I can see it through between the space and the monitors.
Oh, the fact that you have a copy.
Well, yeah. I do have one.
There you go.
But still, I think I played it 30 minutes. And then I basically threw the Wiimote and then said, fuck that.
So it was basically like an RPG, right?
No.
With Sonic characters?
No, it's actually more like a rail shooter.
Oh. I might be thinking of Sonic and the Black Knight.
Oh, that one sucks too.
Yeah, I'm sure it does.
I mean, you can basically call it any title now and say that one sucks and you'd be right.
Yeah, for the most part.
There was some that was kind of good.
Mm-hmm. I agree. You know which one surprised me that I ended up really liking, even though most people didn't give a shit about it? Sonic Lost World for the Wii U.
Oh, yeah.
I felt like it was just one patch away from being like a really good Sonic game. Like, it was a little buggy. Once you got past that, though, it was actually a pretty cool game. It had a terrible story, but that's fine.
The
gameplay-wise, it was good.
Yeah. I don't understand why they're so buggy every time.
Sega doesn't care anymore, dude.
Yeah.
Quality control is gone.
Come on.
Yeah, that's unfortunately absolutely true. That's kind of what happened with Sonic Boom. I mean, Sonic Boom came out. It was
please.
Now, Sonic Boom is now famous for being like a buggy mess. The thing is that game got a big patch like way later.
I didn't even
Most people
get it.
never played it, but that patch actually fixed a lot of the problems.
I don't
That
care.
patch is the biggest patch on the Wii U. It's
Yeah.
over a gigabyte.
Wow.
That's crazy.
It's a fucking patch.
It's more like a small game.
Yeah. Yeah, it apparently did a lot of things, including like completely changing a lot of the textures in the game. Like it did a lot to it.
Yeah, I figured if it's that big, it had to be texture related. Because I mean, you ship code, even compiled code. You're not gonna hit a gig with code.
Well, textures looked just like PS1 textures before.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that was a really odd. I remember when that patch came out, and everybody's like, "This thing's over a gig." I'm like, "There's no way," but no, it's totally true. Took forever to install just because the Wii U probably wasn't really designed to have a gigabyte-sized patch.
Maybe.
So I don't really know how it works, but yeah.
I didn't even care.
Yeah, you should. That's the point. Is that once you got that game patched, it actually was a lot better. But nobody gave a shit, and I don't blame you because everybody was so disappointed in that game.
I don't want to play that ever again. Please, bury it.
Sonic
wait.
Generations was all right.
Sonic
Yeah,
Generation
that's-
was kind of good. I agree.
That's the only one that I've heard has been decent recently.
Yeah, well, all right. So here's how you know we're getting older because you said that game was recent. That was almost 10 years ago.
What?
Wait, Generations?
Yeah, it came out in 07.
Generations.
Seriously? What?
I'm pretty sure it was 07
Generations.
It can't.
because this is the 25th anniversary this year, right? And I believe
Yeah.
that game came out in the 15th anniversary. I'm gonna double check this. Apologize for my old keyboard here.
Hey,
It
mine,
cannot
mine
be,
makes
please.
more noise. Wait a minute. Okay, hold on. So
Sonic
did they-
No, sorry. It was 2011. Sorry, 2011.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you. I was like, wait a minute, because that
Come on.
that came out for the PC too, right?
Yeah, no, my mistake. That was
I
5
think
years
it
ago,
did.
though.
Okay. You were freaking me out. I was like, did I literally just like fall asleep for 5 years or something? I don't know.
No.
what's
I
going on.
apologize. That was my mistake. But
Ooh, I
you
lose
know what
my
else is
mind.
weird about Sonic? Do you
What?
realize he's been a third-party character longer than he was ever a first-party character?
No.
It's true.
I don't want to know it's true.
Think about it. He was a first-party character from 91 to 2001 for 10 years.
Oh, disgusting.
And he's been a third-party character since then.
Oh,
Huh.
yay.
How old do you feel now?
Nah, I'm not that old.
We are all old now because we all lived through this.
Yeah, we did.
Oh, man. Yeah, no, that always, whenever when I first realized that, I was like, wow, that breaks my heart a little.
Makes me miss my
But,
Game Gear.
Childhood
Yeah.
ruined.
Grab my
'cause
Game
you
Gear,
wouldn't-
pop in Sonic, be good to go.
Yeah.
Say again?
Said grab my Game Gear, pop in Sonic, and be good to go.
Which one?
I don't even remember. It was just it was a Sonic. I don't.
You
remember
realize
which
there
one
were
it was.
8 Sonic games on the Game Gear?
I think
There were 8 Sonic games. I did not.
Yeah.
know that.
Yeah, it
My
could be that.
Norm, the video game historian, actually did a whole video on all of them. And it's like, wow, I can't
That's a
believe
lot.
there were 8 games for that thing.
Huh. Yeah,
Yeah.
I do not know. Remember words. I do not remember which one I had. I just remember I was little, so I left my Game Gear out in the rain, and it got ruined.
Oh,
Nice.
And no more Game Gear. I
Is
still
that when
have
you
games,
learned to
though.
value electronics?
No, I still break things all the time. I don't know why
Oh.
I'm in the tech industry because everyone says I break everything I touch.
even
That's
now?
too bad, man.
Even now, yep. If I touch
Whoa.
the microphone, it'll die. So I'm avoiding.
Don't touch
touching
it.
Yeah, we appreciate that, man, because we need you around.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so any other thoughts on Sonic? I mean, I guess the anniversary's here. It is the 25th anniversary, isn't it?
I think, yes, it is.
You
Yeah, it
said
has to be.
91,
'cause-
right?
Yeah, 91. So
91,
this is
yeah.
the 20th. Yeah, 25th anniversary. Because Sonic Adventure 2 was the 10th anniversary game.
Oh, yeah. Good old times.
Just,
Really.
Feel old, Adam. Feel old.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm making everybody older just by listening to this. Okay, all right. Then we'll move on so we stop being so depressing. I want to give a shout out here to Corey. He came up with a subject that he thought would be good for us, and he's right. This is the question is it still worth it to modify retro consoles? Basically, back when they were relevant, it might have been cost effective to modify a PlayStation 2, for example. But now, with times having changed, is it you could just easily buy a Japanese one and have your American one, or buy also a European one. Is there still a point to modifying consoles or not? And we're talking specifically about retro consoles, not like, if somebody cracked the PS4, would that be worth it or not? Just stuff that that you used to modify commonly. Is there still a point to it?
Some mods there should be.
Well, I mean, don't you still have to worry if you get some of these older systems that are in different countries? You have to worry about adapting the power supplies. You have to worry about the video output. Like, aren't there different frequencies for different televisions? In
Yes,
different
there
countries? So
Totally.
those kind of problems are an issue. I'm trying to think of other things, like right off the bat, that you'd have to deal with.
Yeah, I'll region locks,
Well, yeah,
all that kind of stuff.
The mod,
A lot of that stuff is still there. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like,
Yeah.
well, I guess he's saying, rather than modding one to have it play any game, right? Because I guess one of the mods would be getting rid of the region lock. Would it be worth it just to get a different console to play each of the different regions, right?
Yeah, precisely.
But then it's like you have to manage. Okay, let's say you have three different regions. You have the Asian region, you have the European region, you have the North American region. That's three consoles. So then I don't want to have three of the same consoles sitting out where I have to let me find out which one's the one I need to put this game in. Oh, it's not plugged in because I have 40 consoles. It's just too much to manage.
See, that all comes in. I mean, Remi might disagree because he and I are both huge into collecting consoles.
Yep.
But I think it kind of boils down to personal preference and what console it is. Like with the PS2, yeah, I don't have a reason to get a European one or a Japanese one. I can rather easily play imports on it. But with something like the original Xbox, modifying it is incredibly valuable because of all the things that it can do once that occurs. What do you think, Remi?
Well, for me, it would probably just, like you said, Chip, just for space. I mean, having 3 different consoles for every console, would be huge. I have 30 consoles hooked up. Imagine if I had to need 3 of each. Come on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, because Adam, I'm not talking about collecting. I'm talking about literally you're going to use these consoles to play games on a regular basis.
Yes, okay, that's fair.
So for then, I'm like, I just want one. It's why I got that the GD Emu project, right? Put in my Dreamcast, because I've already had a couple of the lasers burn out, which is kind of sad.
That happens all the time, even to the best of us, man.
Yeah, it's some of them, they just sit there. I don't do anything to them, and then I try them a month later, and they're dead. I'm like, what? But anyway, yeah. So I mean, having a single system I can just use and beat up, and then move to the next one, versus having to manage multiple is pretty big. And I've got so many cables around here already that I don't want to add more. Please no.
Not anymore.
So I guess the short answer is we're all saying yes, it's worth it still.
Yeah, I agree.
For example, I've got a PC Engine Duo that was modified, so it can play.
Show off.
It can play.
How did you end up with one and neither Remi or I have one of those? How did that happen?
You can go to.
He and I have Pippins.
Yeah.
And you don't. It's just how did you end up with that shit?
Because I'll never play a Pippin, but I'll play a PC Engine.
Oh,
Wow. That's cold.
Boom! There you go. But yeah, so you can actually get them. There's a guy. There are actually multiple people that sell them on PC Engine FX. I think that's the site. Pretty good for any kind of mods you want with PC Engine. People sell them for $150, $200 for the harder ones to get. The full package. So
yeah.
not too bad. But yeah, so it's modded. It can play Japanese and North American and PAL games. I think there are PAL games for that. But I'm trying to remember. I think the disc you don't actually. There's no region lock on it, but the cards there were. I can't actually remember.
You're talking about PC Engine?
Yeah, PC Engine.
Because I know the cards had some sort of lock. They were slightly different.
Yeah.
I don't know about the discs.
Yeah, I think one of them didn't have any region lock, or if it did, he just wiped it out. Whereas the other one, I have to press a button. But still pretty good, and it had better output and all that kind of stuff. So this cleans up a whole lot more.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah, I can't comment because I don't have one.
Me neither.
Dude, if you come to one of those local game stores I mentioned, they had PC Engines, TurboGrafx, everything, and if you bought them, you get free controller and all the other hookups as well. They had some sort of special running where you buy the console and you get a bunch of accessories with it.
Nice.
That's cool.
And
I do have a PC Engine. I do have I have 2 TurboGrafx 16s. I just don't have any way to play the CD stuff.
Gotcha. Yeah, they had the PC Engine Duo in there. They didn't have the external disk drive. I think is the hardest thing to get.
Oh,
yeah.
Really?
Yeah, for some reason
Makes
it's
me sad.
you can get the bare bones Hue card player. You can get the combo, which is the Duo, of of CD and card player or U card reader. But getting the add-on seems to be the hardest part to find, because I guess it's kind of like why would people get the add-on when they can just get the full system again? Because I guess is the mentality.
Yeah, they also didn't produce that many of them. Plus, it's the first CD-based console ever, that specific add-on. So it's like just uncommon.
Yeah, it feels so weird
because it wasn't that well built, I don't think.
No, because I mean, you put the disc in. There's no kind of pop. There's no like, okay, I definitely put the disc in. It just kind of sits there loosely, like it's not actually holding in place, and then you just close it, and it looks like it's going to die at any second, but it works. So there you go.
That's cool, man. So is that it? Are we agreeing that yes, we should still mod our consoles?
Well, I agree.
I think the consensus is still mod the consoles, unless literally you have a ton of space and it's more cost effective to get 3.
I don't think it
keep
is.
in mind you gotta remember the video output and the power supplies could be different.
Yeah, that is very true. I mean, it also depends on, like, I guess maybe we're poor representation of this. Maybe there's like, if you're a person who really only cared about, let's say, just the PS2 or something, or maybe just the Wii or whatever your favorite console was.
Why the Wii?
Then maybe it makes sense to get like one of each, if provided you don't also buy other consoles or whatever. But aside from that, yeah, I think you guys are right. I think just modding it just makes the most sense if you have that option.
So it depends on how much you want.
Yeah, pretty much. It always boils down to, I guess, in this case, personal opinion. So our personal opinions all seem to be still mod the thing.
Yeah, and if you don't want to mod it yourself, you can find a lot of people that will do it for not too expensive on the internet, so it's not too bad.
All right, then we will move on. Thank you, Corey Marsh, for that subject. This one is by Kyle Vaughn, and he actually asks a question I don't think we would have otherwise ever talked about, so I'm glad he did. The state of Japanese exclusives for the Xbox One. All right, so
that's deep.
Like so I did some look into this. There are 3. Amazingly, there are 3 Japanese exclusive Xbox One games, and I don't mean just games that like came out in Japan, but maybe also came out on the PS4 in Japan, and we never got. Like, there's a few of those, but these are games that were only on the Xbox One and only in Japan.
That's weird.
Now that's really weird to me, because even in Europe currently, there's only 1. Japan has 3.
That's strange.
That's really
and the
strange.
one in Europe, apparently, it was exclusive, and now it's not going to be. It was Goat Simulator.
Simulator.
Goat Simulator got a physical Xbox One release in Europe for some reason, with all the DLC and everything all on disc. I even picked it up while I was in the UK. And then I got back here, I talked about it in a video, and people were like, it's going to come to PS4 in like 6 months. It's coming out in like Germany only. And I was like, what? What the hell?
What?
Yeah, exactly. So that one doesn't exist anymore, or won't. But there's still 3 that came out in Japan only.
I wonder if that's an attempt, how the Japanese market seems to be more of a single game will sell a console. If they're trying to find some single games that they could produce in Japan to sell more consoles.
Yeah, clearly they're trying their best to appeal to them, but
doesn't work.
All right, so I know, Chip, you and I looked into this a little bit. Remy, I don't know if you saw the link about this, but so we were looking at VG charts, which I know is not the most reliable place for stuff, but we were looking at like sales for the Xbox One
I've seen that.
in Japan. Now, Xbox stuff has never done well in Japan, like at all. But all right, so we got the weekly chart for August 20th. That's the most recent information. So the PlayStation 4 sold over 18,000 units in Japan that week. The 3DS sold almost 28,000. The PS Vita sold almost 11,000. The Wii U, a little over 5,000. The PS3, over 1,000. The Xbox One sold 47 units.
Wow.
47 the entire week. The Xbox 360, 1.
Really?
1 guy bought a 360 in Japan that week.
Now, didn't you find some older statistics that showed 1 Xbox One was sold 1 month?
No, that's the same thing I'm talking about. But apparently another week has gone by and still only 1 guy bought a 360.
It's just it's like they should do like a little confetti award where it's like confetti falls from the ceiling. It's like, congratulations, you're the one person in the whole country that bought this console.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I think there was a week early on, in like right around the time of the launch of the Xbox One, like a couple weeks in, and they only sold 100 of them in a week. We're now a couple of years later, and they're only selling 47 in a week.
That's harsh.
That's really bad. I mean, globally, it sold 72,770 units. Only 47 of them came out of Japan.
That's nuts.
So the point is, I mean, it's not really any great secret that the Xbox One doesn't do well in Japan, or Xbox stuff in general doesn't do there, or do well there. What's actually to me more surprising is the fact that they actually have any exclusive titles, considering how poorly it sells. And
do you know anything about these exclusives? Do you know, like...
I do.
What type of
I'll tell you
games?
the names. The first one is called, well, you'll have to forgive my pronunciation, Azito X Tatsunoko Legends. It's like this weird puzzle style game where you have to like build an underground city on like a 2D plane. I actually have that one.
Really?
But it's hard to play because it's not English friendly.
Oh, okay.
None of those are.
Yeah, well, no, you'd be surprised.
Really?
But that one in particular is not. So I couldn't really do much with it. I had a friend who was sitting there trying to play it because he's, just likes kind of those type of games. But even he was kind of struggling because, without a knowledge of Japanese, you can't really do it because it's a kind of game where you have to like build stuff and like think of it kind of like a SimCity type of game, but underground a little bit.
Underground
A little bit.
SimCity.
That's not the perfect explanation of it, but you have to build an underground society, right? And so that gives you a lot of options. Like, do you want to put piping here? Do you want to put electrical fences here? Or what do you want to do here? And all that shit's in Japanese. So it's like, I don't know which one I'm picking. That makes it a lot more difficult.
It must
Now-
be complicated.
Yeah. So one of the other games, this one isn't a true exclusive, but it kind of is a game called Stranger of Sword City. That game was released, I don't know much about the game itself other than the fact that it was released on the PS Vita in the West, but for whatever reason with the PS4 and Xbox One, it only got an Xbox One release and only in Japan.
That's weird.
Yeah, I agree completely because the game was fully translated into English and released on only the PS Vita in the West.
Makes it even
So I don't-
weirder.
It is. It really is. I don't know
What
what
kind
the
of
deal
game
with
is
that
it?
is. I don't know much about it. It's probably an RPG.
Yeah. If it's on
but
the
I don't-
Vita, that's me.
Yeah,
That's a good
exactly.
guess.
I don't get that.
And if the console release was only in Japan, I mean, that tells you a lot. So I don't know exactly. But the last one is the one that's probably the most unique, which is Raiden 5,
5.
which is a shoot 'em up.
Oh.
And the interesting thing about that one is that you can buy the digital version of that in North America. You can just download it. But if you actually put in the Raiden 5 Japanese disc, it will install the English patch, so it will play in English.
Cool.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
It is. So those are the only 3 that currently exist that only came out in Japan. I mean, again, if we're saying Stranger Sword City getting a Vita release doesn't count, and if we're saying a digital-only release of Raiden 5 doesn't count, but you get my point. There are other games that have come out on the Xbox One in Japan that we didn't get, things like Puyo Puyo Tetris, but that was also released on the PS4, the Vita, the Wii U, etc. It was released on like everything. So it kind of depends on what your definition of this is. So I guess the basic question that Kyle had about all this is, why is this the case? Why do they get so few or oddly so many exclusives, considering that, depending on how you look at it, considering how poor the market is there? Do you guys have any initial theories?
I don't. I'm
No,
lost.
not really. That's kind of my that's not my forte.
Okay.
I mean, I just go from the. Oh, go ahead.
All right, now, so my theory on this is that, all right, so like the original Xbox, they had 48 original Xbox Japanese exclusives. There was, and the 360, I don't know, but I know they put a lot of effort into it. I mean, Microsoft has always fought like hell to try and get the Xbox to work in Japan. But they've just
Fruitlessly.
never. Say again?
Fruitlessly.
Yeah, exactly. They've never been able to succeed. The original Xbox did the best and still did not do well. And so I think as a result, you end up with they've put a lot of effort into Japanese exclusives that would be really like appealing to the Japanese market. So a lot of them are actually really good. It's just that the Japanese never gave a shit. That's why you end up with these like odd games where like, why didn't we get that? Because that ended up being a really cool game. Some of which end up making their way to the West, like Phantom Dust on the original Xbox, stuff like that, where people were like, come on, that game looks great. You put a lot of effort into it. It didn't sell over there. Bring it over here. We'll actually play it. But at the same time, you have to wonder, like, how is it that despite putting that much effort in, you only end up with just a couple of exclusives? Because ultimately, 48 games is not a whole lot, nor is just 3 in this case. I don't know how many the 360 had. So it's just weird, I guess, how we ultimately... You can either look at it again like that's a lot of exclusives considering how poorly it does, or it's just not that many exclusives. Like, are they going too far, or are they not going far enough to try and reach Japanese people? You know?
I wonder
Does that
why
make any
Microsoft
sense?
has not tried to do what company did it? It's the Pippin, right? They
Apple, went through Bandai, and I
Yeah,
think I know
what-
what you're going to
yeah.
say, but go ahead.
Yeah, why has Microsoft not tried to go with another company? Obviously not Sony or Nintendo, but some other company to just try to get better support.
You know that could have happened. If you look into this, there was a time where Sega made that proposal to Microsoft.
They refused, right?
Yeah, the Microsoft refused them outright. Basically, I don't know if you guys are aware, the original deal to this was that when Sega first heard about the Xbox becoming a thing, they basically went to Microsoft and they basically begged them not to do this and to, basically support the. Oh, sorry, I just hit my mic. Support the Dreamcast for like another year with Microsoft's aid, just to kind of let them ride out the generation. And then when they would switch to the generation after that, Sega would quietly bow out. They would agree to like let the next Microsoft platform be fully Dreamcast backwards compatible, and then on top of that, they would be the distributor of that console in Japan. So in North America and Europe, it would have been the Microsoft Xbox, and in Japan, it would have been presumably the Sega Xbox or the Sega whatever they decided to call it, because apparently Xbox in Japanese means no box, which is like a self-insulting device.
Really?
Yeah, that's what it means. They didn't. That's how little they understood about that market when going into it.
They should have changed it.
And now it's too much of a brand for them to change.
Well, of
So,
course.
like, it's not unprecedented. Like, apparently, Sega does this for other companies, like Activision, EA, WB Games. When they make games, Sega distributes them in Japan, and so that they appear to be Japanese products. Which I only learned about that last year, and I was like, wow, that's kind of amazing. So it's kind of weird that Microsoft never ultimately went down that road. You would think after they struck out the first time, they would have tried it. And then they
Yeah, I
struck out
know.
a second time, and they still didn't try it. Hopefully, if they ever do anything after the Xbox One, they try that.
Yeah, well, Microsoft's had some pretty poor management too, so
Yeah.
they probably just didn't consider the Japanese market that important. But then you've got another group that does, which is why they keep trying these things, right? So probably just butting heads. It'd be
Yeah, the problem with, I mean, again, you look at VG charts and you look at their global sales and stuff. The problem with Microsoft versus Sony is that Sony always wins by default in Japan. They're granted one of the three biggest markets just off the bat. Like, I mean, if you look at the 7th generation, right? Everybody thought the 360 won that one. Technically, it lost. The Wii came in first, sold the most units, and then the PS3 ended up barely catching and beating it entirely on the back of the Japanese sales. And it's weird because the Xbox stuff always ends up losing just because it has to lose Japan by a wide margin.
That's
Every
too
time.
bad.
Yeah. It's just weird.
It is.
But yeah, I guess any other thoughts on the Xbox in Japan, I guess?
I just wonder what it would be like in a parallel universe if Microsoft had decided to accept Sega's offer, right?
Oh.
See, I've thought about that too, and I'm kind of glad that didn't happen. Only because, whatever reason, working with Microsoft tends to be the kiss of death for any kind of developer or publisher.
Yeah, rare.
Yeah, exactly. Rare's a perfect example of that. And, I don't know what that is. I don't know why that happens.
corporate,
it doesn't.
man. Corporate.
I mean, say again?
It's corporate. It's definitely corporate. I mean,
Yeah, it has to be.
They had their
They
own
are.
thing. Oh, it's like Minecraft is going to go down the tube.
Eventually.
Now it's under Microsoft. Just because the main thing that's keeping it alive, all the modding interest and all that kind of stuff, because vanilla Minecraft was a fairly boring game after you played it for a little while. But all the weird mods to make it. I mean, heck, you could have like a mod to let you play a Game Boy, like a real Game Boy in Minecraft, right? Which is ridiculous. So
Really?
when Microsoft bought it, I mean, there's going to be too much corporate influence to really get it to survive, especially since they spent so much money on it. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Didn't they buy it for like $4 billion or something?
It was definitely some billion-dollar deal. I just don't remember how many billion it was. But to me, it's just I don't know what kind of math you do to say, yes, if we spend this much money, we'll get this much money back eventually, so we'll start making a profit by this year. And it's like, how? There's no way. I mean, it's already a game to me that's reached its peak and is starting to go down. I just don't see Minecraft becoming even more popular or more people getting it.
I agree. Because
Me
I don't
too.
mean, that's like a whole different subject, but with Minecraft specifically, like, it made most of its money already.
Yeah.
And,
Yep.
the one thing they could have debatably done was make it, a Windows and Xbox exclusive. Not that I think it would have hurt PlayStation or Nintendo too much.
No,
But-
it would have not.
Yeah, so it's I don't know, but yeah, they didn't even treat it like the exclusive it potentially could have been. But maybe it's because it's beyond that. It's too big to have made just for one platform. I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, since unless they start doing like, hey, if you want to connect to these large Minecraft servers we support, you can pay like a monthly subscription fee and do some sort of subscription-based model. But that just seems very, very, very odd move. But of course, we're all speculating because I have no idea what kind of logic, statistics they use to say this is how much we'll be willing to spend, right? But it definitely seems like it was too much.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. So none of us think there's anything they can do to save Xbox in Japan?
I don't think they can.
No, I mean, like you said, the brand's already kind of been established. I mean, I don't know how easy the Japanese market would be influenced now if you had someone like Sega say, yeah, we'll don't call it the Xbox next time, which doesn't have there's going to be a next time, but if there was, don't call it the Xbox, call it the Sega box or something. Who knows, right?
Yeah.
I don't think that would. I mean, that'd probably get some fanboys to start saying, "Oh, Sega's making hardware again," but I don't think it's really going to get Japan to buy the system.
Of course they say that. I get people who send me those like links to those @games Firecore Genesis clones, and they're like, "Oh, those Sega's making hardware again." It's like, no,
Nope.
Sega didn't make that.
Not at all.
So people shout out about that for any reason. But yeah, you're right. If that would be interesting though, if there was a new Microsoft console in Japan that was distributed by Sega and it actually had like a totally different boot up and everything. I guarantee you people would import the Japanese one just because it said Sega on the box.
Of course.
I mean, I would. I admit it. Yeah, see? Remy and I, Pippin brothers, we would do it.
Yay.
The Pipple brothers, that's right.
Pipple.
That's going to stick.
All right, cool. Moving on then. Thank you, Kyle. I want to give a quick shout out here to Colin. He is a Patreon backer, like of course both Kyle and Corey are, and he was at the tier appropriate for a shout out. So again, thank you, Colin, for helping to make the podcast very possible. And now moving on, Chip, you had this subject. Do you want me to read it, or do you want to handle this?
It doesn't matter to me.
All right, I'll just read all the subjects today.
Go for it, Adam.
Yay.
All right, it'll be Adam Day.
Thank you. This was a good one too. PS4 Slim. Is this like the weirdest leak ever?
Yeah.
Do you want to introduce exactly what the PS4 Slim is?
Sure. I mean, I don't really know that much about it either. I was just reading. So the main leak comes from Let's Play Videogames.com. I believe there are a couple other sites that have echoed it by now. Some major publications have kind of echoed, oh, look, here comes the PS4 Slim. And it's kind of weird because to its name, it's basically a slim version of the PS4 that apparently some sort of retail store manager sold a unit on eBay, which is kind of strange, and I don't know what happened to them. But the interesting thing is, the very beginning of this article, the person's basically saying, don't sue me, and you shouldn't sue me, and all this kind of stuff, I guess, for doing a review of a console that's not yet been announced, right?
Not only has it not been released, it hasn't been announced yet.
Yeah, no announcement yet. I've already forgotten now if it's being announced in September or if it's actually going to be announced and released in September.
Yeah, that's a good point. Depending on when you're listening to this, it's either been announced or released already, and we sound like idiots. But I swear, when we recorded it, it wasn't announced or released yet.
Not at all.
Yeah, and I can't remember from this leak article. I could skim through and try to find it, but I don't know what the actual date of announcement / I mean, we know announcement's going to happen in September at least. I just don't know if it's going to be released in September or another day.
I kind of mentioned this to you before, but I would think that it's going to come out in October because that's when PSVR comes out. And I'm guessing they kind of want to push it all together in one campaign. That, to me, makes sense, but
Yeah,
that's just me.
It does make sense.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing for this one is that supposedly none of the hardware has changed. I think I can't remember if the controller changed at all, but at least the main unit has not changed. It's just smaller.
I vaguely recall the article. The guy said the controller was slightly nicer, but I don't know what he meant by that.
So a slightly nicer, in quotes, controller. But then the unit itself is just smaller. But unlike the Xbox One S, which actually had some upgrades to be able to do, what is it able to do? The
4K video
4K.
output.
There you go, for
That's like
movies
the
and
big
stuff,
one.
Right? Yeah.
The main one.
PS4 Slim does not really offer anything. It's just slim.
Voilà.
Now, granted, that's still kind of nice if you don't have that much shelf space and you want to put it somewhere and it'll fit, right? But other than that, there's literally zero reason, unless you want the slim controller, which I'm assuming you can buy on its own, to get this is on first impression. But keep in mind, no announcement, no release, so who knows? The full information could be a little bit different. This is from one person's inspection, right?
You know, it might. I don't think it's appealing to people who already had a PS4. I think it's appealing to just, you know, they're probably doing what they always do, which is just try to find a way to produce them for less money, and it must be cheaper to produce. And it's the guy also said that it ran cooler and quieter, but that's a small difference. But
Which is nice.
yeah. Go ahead, Remy. Sorry.
Which it is nice, but it doesn't make a lot of difference.
Exactly. So it might be kind of what Microsoft was doing with giving you kind of like a holdover unit until the next thing, Scorpio and perhaps PS4K. But unlike, you know, the S, as Chip pointed out, there is no real upgrade to this. So it's not a particularly tempting thing unless you are a collector or you have never had a PS4.
I mean, the only thing I can think of is that's, you know, along with trying to say, hey, look, like Microsoft, we have another, rendition of this console. I mean, it's just kind of like a news thing, you know, like, hey, remember PS4 exists, come buy one, maybe a Vita too. It's just kind of weird. When we were talking about the PS4 Neo a while back, remember when we talked about that, and we were wondering if there's going to be any kind of in between, right? And I had mentioned how, well, you know, that's not normally how corporations work. You know, they have this kind of stuff planned in advance. They already have to start doing the research, development. They can't just say, oh, okay, 1 month ago we need to make a new console. Here it is. But this one's a little bit weird because since none of the hardware has changed other than just them kind of reorganizing the box to make it fit, I'm wondering if this one was a reaction to Microsoft, if they were able to just kind of rush this one along to say, hey, look, we're going to get something at the door just to say that we have another change just like Microsoft does, just so we don't get forgotten, whereas Microsoft with the Xbox One S gets put back in the spotlight.
That is certainly possible. One other thing that occurred to me about why it's actually worse than the original version of the PS4, this is a small thing, but they took out the optical audio port. So
they removed something.
Oh, they did. I just remembered that. They took that out, which is useful for certain sound setups. Wouldn't affect me. But the other thing it's good for is when you want to bypass HDCP protection, like when you're recording video and stuff. To get the audio for that to work, you always need the optical audio out port. So I guess with that one, you couldn't do that.
Oh yeah, I see the little part in the article that you're talking about.
Yeah, so this thing actually has less features than the original version, whereas the Xbox One S has more features than the original version.
Yeah, so maybe this was just a cost-effective move by Sony.
Yeah.
Might be.
That said, I'd still be interested in checking one out, but I'm in absolutely no rush to get one.
Oh, me too.
I mean, I'm one of those people that still doesn't have, other than the Wii U, I don't have a new generation console, right?
Yeah, you're weird.
Yeah.
you should take care of that.
Weirdo.
Yeah, I've got the Nvidia Shield. I'm good to go.
Oh, all right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You should get a Japanese Xbox One.
That's totally what I'm not going to get.
I know. There's no reason to. Because it's region free.
No, of course. Yay. And also, I could be number 2 to buy one.
I was going to say, you could be on this list, Chip.
That's
you
right.
could be the second guy in a week to buy an Xbox 360.
Oh,
that's right.
So cool.
Import one from Japan.
Mm-hmm.
So any other thoughts on the PS4 Slim?
Nope.
All right, so if you were to get a PS4, would you get the Slim or would you get the regular one? Or would you wait just for the Neo, I guess?
At this point, I'd wait.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
I mean, if I had to pick between the two, I'd get the original because I'm a bit of a pack rat and also don't like missing features. So now that I know that there's actually something missing, even if I never use it, I'd still want it.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be the only reason.
Then with that in mind, and Remy, I think you'll find this kind of fun.
Yeah.
But Chip, with that in mind, when it comes to the Xbox One, what do? Because the Xbox One S has more features, but it did strip away Kinect support.
Oh, come on.
Seriously?
Oh, no. You've got me there.
I mean, you can get this little adapter thing for it to make the Kinect work on it, but it requires like a power supply and all this extra shit.
Who cares?
Okay, that's the thing, though.
Well, Chip does. He doesn't like, he can't use Skype on it then.
Man, I'm getting let down.
I'm just saying, like, I don't like the Kinect for gaming, but I gotta be honest, as a media device, it has actually been kind of nice because you just tell it to go to like Netflix or tell it to go to Skype, and then you can actually use it for Skype and everything. I'm just saying, for that stuff, it was useful.
I would tell it
and
to
if I
go
got an
fucking-
Xbox One S, I would have to actually get that stupid adapter thing.
Oh,
For
boom,
just
boom.
That's
that
the thing,
reason.
though. That's the thing.
Or
You can
don't.
still get it to work by getting the adapter. So
But I
technically,
have
it's
to
not
buy
gone.
the stupid adapter.
Well, so what? The feature is still available. It's still more cumbersome to get set up.
You wouldn't like it. It requires another power supply.
I didn't say if I like it.
What?
I don't like the Connect, so I never
Yeah.
get one. But
But just because you never had one for Skype. That's like the one reason to have it.
Yay.
oh man,
So
I've got some
cool.
That and
computers, I
redeeming
don't
those
need another one.
codes is really easy on that shit.
Oh,
I never thought I'd be defending the Kinect, man.
me
Never thought
neither.
it.
The world
No,
never
it's-
thought that, Adam.
As a gaming device, it's useless. Don't get me wrong. But for those other things, it's not too bad.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Can you say
Yeah.
Xbox? Go fuck yourself. No?
No, it doesn't understand.
No. Oh shit.
Now, actually, that's the other thing. Since they just did that latest dashboard update, if you say Xbox, it doesn't recognize that anymore. You have to say Cortana now.
Oh.
Oh,
come
no.
On. That's
Yeah.
Oh no.
Control-
So like
Cortana.
they took like that basic instruction away doesn't even apply anymore.
I'm really
Two
surprised.
things I
I guess they
hate.
took away the activation key. That's actually
Say
something I
again?
do at work. Is this kind of stuff? So that's kind of funny.
I actually have to double check on that because it sent me a message basically saying that I would have to start saying Cortana, but I haven't actually verified to see if that's true or not. So full
It's such a poor
disclosure.
decision. I know
Yeah.
why they had to do that, but that's still kind of poor.
Yep. All right. I guess we'll move on to this next subject here. So I actually had a subject for once.
Yay! A little
Yo,
clap for
yay.
Adam. Yeah.
Yeah, there's my golf clap. Thank you. It kind of goes back to this whole thing we were talking about with exclusives in Japan. I was thinking about it the other way. I was thinking about PAL exclusives. Like I mentioned Goat Simulator and stuff. Basically, why does that happen? Why do we end up with so many exclusives in one region or another? Or why do we end up with so few? Are there any things that are really worth noting? And so I got a couple of examples of what I'm talking about. So obviously I'm assuming most people figure this out, but basically when a console comes out in one region, it will have games that are released there that are not released in other regions. And so the crossover between North America and Europe is usually very small. With the Dreamcast, there was 24 European exclusives. There were 32 Sega Saturn exclusives. There was 70 original Xbox exclusives. There was like 40 NES exclusives, stuff like that. And I was just kind of like, I just kind of wanted to talk about that as a concept and be like, why do you think some of these games didn't come out? Or, were they all just regional things that would only work best there? Or was there like corporate reasons why something got screwed? And I know that there are, because I can give examples of each. But, since Remi, since you actually are in Europe, you might be able to give us more of an insight on why you think some games maybe come out in Europe that we never get, and maybe some games that we get that you don't, and why you think that might be.
Well, the only ones I would actually know of are just games that it's basically just an IP that's really just released in the country, like a game show or something like that was only released in my country, which I don't know if that exists, but sadly.
Oh, it must. I found a game like that in the UK called Telly Addicts. And apparently that was a TV show that only existed in the UK and maybe Ireland as well. So yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. That happens all the time. But then there are weird ones that are... All right, so here's a perfect example of sometimes when that goes exactly the other direction. Do you guys remember the show Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, now that was like a big American show, right? Regis Philbin and everything.
Yep.
There was a Dreamcast game of that, but only in Europe.
What?
Exactly. So sometimes, why? Why does shit like that happen?
Maybe the show was
Who
more
Wants to Be a
successful.
Millionaire? Wasn't there a European version of that show?
Oh, I'm sure there was.
Oh, there was a French
I'm
one.
just saying, I'm pretty sure it was an American show to begin with, although forgive me, I could be wrong.
I don't remember.
I don't know.
Wait, did it have Regis Philbin on it?
In the game itself, I doubt it,
Oh, okay.
but I'm not sure.
Because if it did, then that would definitely be the American version of the show. I'm just kind of wondering.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I also know the game's worthless, so Remy, have fun. You can find it
Yeah.
in the bargain bins. But yeah, like there's some games I know that only get released there because they're screwed by corporate reasons. Shenmue 2, Rez, Headhunter are all really good examples. Those are all Dreamcast games.
Do you have modern examples?
Modern examples, all right, like Goat Simulator, right?
Yeah.
I don't have
That's
an
like the
example
only
of
one, right?
why that happened. I just know that it did.
Well, Goat Simulator was made by some people in... Where are they from?
Probably Germany. A lot of those simulators come out of Germany.
I feel like
That's true.
I feel like it was not Sweden. I can't remember now. But yeah, so maybe that they just were able to get a deal to have, since that's where they were developing it. Maybe they could get a deal to get that produced in Europe physically. Since that's the only one that you can think of, or
that's not the only one I can think of. It just came to mind first.
But there's
that's
not
the only
as
one
many.
I can think of. There's a bunch for the PS4. Actually, I do have a little insight on that. There was a game called Zombie Army Trilogy, which is no longer exclusive. It ultimately got released everywhere. But there was a phase there where I was talking to the developers of it because they had a European release but no North American release. And they basically told me they didn't think the distributor was going to be interested in North America. Ultimately, that changed. But so I guess a lot of the times it comes down to stuff like that. Like I guess they think it won't do well in one region or as opposed to another.
Yeah.
But a lot of the indie stuff, especially, gets physical releases in Europe that don't get releases in North America. Or sometimes there's really confusing ones, like Bloodborne, right? They re-released Bloodborne with all the DLC, plus all the patches, all in one disc, in Europe and Japan for the PS4, but not North America.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
So, like, Remy can go out and buy that shit, but Chip and I can't.
Yeah, suck it.
Yeah, we're fucked, dude.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so that's just, I mean, I don't have the whole all my games like right in front of me, but I picked up a lot of PS4 games in Europe, and a lot of them I don't understand why we didn't get them. Stuff where it's not like Zombie. Remember Zombie U for the Wii U?
Yeah.
That got an Xbox One and PS4 release later in Europe physically, for us just digitally. And it's by Ubisoft, so I don't get that one because they obviously operate in North America. So I never really get that. The one thing people were telling me while I was in the UK anyway was that they're less embracing of digital content than we are. That's like the one explanation I've heard. But then Remy, I think in a different podcast, you told me you kind of thought it was the other way around. So I don't even know. Maybe it's a country by country thing.
I think it has to be, because in here we really like physical, but I don't think in other country that is like near France, I don't think that they are.
Now,
I mean,
go ahead.
I'm assuming part of it would have to do with how the quality of the internet connections in these countries, right? Because obviously, if it's a digital only game, and your internet connection is terrible where you live, you're gonna be more inclined to get physical copies anyway. So maybe more parts of Europe have lower internet. I mean, I know the U.S. has terrible internet, but I think there are like those big cities in the U.S. that have decent internet to do this kind of stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe, I mean, Remy, like what is the status of the internet in terms of speeds throughout Europe? Is it decent throughout? Is it weak? Are there certain countries that are really good and other countries that are bad?
Well, there are countries that are better, and actually, right here, I have pretty good internet, but just like 3-4 blocks away, I know some people that really have shitty internet and can't get better.
Yeah,
It's kind of my case.
yeah.
Really?
No, Adam, I can't believe you can even use Skype.
I know my internet connection is abysmal because not that matters really, but like the place I'm in just refuses to upgrade the wiring. So even though like down the street Starbucks has like free Wi-Fi that's like twice as fast as my connection,
Go there.
it's just fucking.
Folks, that's the reason
sometimes
Adam-
I consider it. I have no shit. I've gone to that Starbucks and uploaded videos because it was faster.
Oh,
That's the reason Adam wouldn't re-upload the first podcast with the audio issue.
Yeah. Oh man, I should have thought of that. That was a good idea.
really?
Oh well.
Yeah.
But yeah, one other thing regarding PAL exclusives, and this one I only came to learn recently. So like, I saw a lot of PS2 PAL exclusives over there. I picked up a bunch. And do you guys know how many PAL exclusives there were on the PlayStation 2?
Well, you
I
did a
know-
video of this, right?
I know because
I
you
did.
told.
I talked about it. But do you guys know like the basic number?
Isn't that like 800?
There you go. Remy gets it
Boom.
out of the park. Now
Remy's got
remember
the
the
good
other ones I was
really good
talking
number.
about? It was like 70, it's 40, it's 30, it's those kind of numbers.
That's
PS2
crazy.
was extreme. And only recently did I find out why that was. It turns out in like 2008, or maybe it was like 2011, something like that. I don't remember exactly. Sony changed the PlayStation 2 to what they called an open platform. Essentially meaning that at that point you didn't have to pay them like development fees and you didn't have to put the games through quality control. All you had to do was pay them to physically produce the discs and they would do it.
Wow.
So as a result, a shit ton of games started pouring out that would never have met quality control standards pretty much anywhere. But it only applied to Europe, which is why Europe ended up with so many insane exclusives. Yeah, I just found that fascinating because I'm like, if they could do that, why did that like never happen before, except for the 3DO?
And why only in Europe?
Exactly. Like, you know, I mean, in theory, doesn't that mean if anybody wanted to right now, they could make new PlayStation 2 games and Sony would pump out discs?
I don't know.
I don't know about that, Adam.
Exactly. Because the last game that came out for it wasn't even that long ago. It was Pro Evolution Soccer 2014.
It's always a soccer game.
It's always sports games, dude. Always sports games.
It's not even a sports. It's always soccer specifically. It's never anything else but soccer.
Well, blame the Europeans for that, Remi. You guys with your soccer, your
I'm
football.
sorry.
I apologize.
I don't even like
the
football or soccer.
Oh.
Dude, you can't say that. There's other Europeans. They're gonna stop listening to you. They won't take. They'll think you're one of us.
Sorry.
He's French Canadian. Okay, that's why he doesn't like soccer.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh, I watched so much soccer at work when the it's the World Cup, right? No, Olympics, not
Yeah.
World Cup. Olympics were going on, and oh my goodness, so many people. Because I work with a lot of people that are from South America. So many of them were up in arms. Argentina, Mexico, everything. I was like, oh, and I was just kind of sitting in the corner saying, okay, you can watch your football. I'll just kind of actually write my code over here.
Yeah, you do you, man. I've learned that you can't really get in a European's way if they're watching some soccer. You just stay the hell out of the way.
Yeah,
I was in Ireland when the whole what was that event that just happened? Portugal won whatever that tournament was. Remi, do you know?
Yeah. No, I don't. I don't care.
Yeah, I get. He's French Canadian. He must be.
Yeah. I'll start saying
no,
a boot.
There was some big like soccer tournament thing over the summer. Portugal ended up winning it, and so I'm in Ireland at the time, and I'm just like, all right, just stay away from everybody. They're all on tents. They're all watching soccer. Or football.
Yep.
Yeah, they take it real serious.
Yeah, too serious.
Yeah, it's okay. Everybody's got their hobbies. Anyway, I guess going back around to PAL exclusives aside from soccer games. I was just thinking about like any other games that you guys might know of that were PAL exclusive that were notable. Like not just, the usual like some of the shit like sports titles, but like any good ones that you guys like. Chip, have you ever imported a PAL game?
Never. I have never done that.
Never. Remi, you got to hook them up. All right. Well, then in the reverse, Remi, you must have picked up an NTSC game at some point.
Of course. Of course I
Okay,
did.
like what are some? Do you have any examples? Because I never think of it in the other direction. I never think about what the American exclusives are. Can you name a couple? Because I probably don't even know. Like for anything, I don't care what platform.
That might sound weird, but on the 32X, there's a game. I'm blanking on the name right now.
It's okay. Take your time.
It was a game that looks like the Prince of Persia game, the old ones.
Oh,
there was a dude with a shotgun.
Oh, I don't have my 32X stuff in front of me. But
What was that called?
Go into Wikipedia. Here we go.
Chip will help us out. Chip to the rescue. In the meantime, I will tell you that there are two 32X PAL exclusives. One of them is called Dark Side, and it's like a shmup. It's insanely expensive. It's like a 600-pound game, so I'll never get that. The other one, and Chip will really appreciate this, FIFA 96.
Oh, come on, not again.
No.
That one I have. I have.
Let's see.
Always soccer. Weird thing about 32X, it only has one Japanese exclusive, and I can't remember the name of that one either. That was mostly an American project, though, so that's probably why.
There are quite a few games. I'm just going to read out some of the North American exclusives here for the 32X.
Okay.
BC Racers, Blackthorn, which apparently is like a Super Nintendo game.
That's that one. That's Blackthorn.
Okay, that was easy.
Hey, cool. Second try there. Yeah, apparently that was released on the Super Nintendo and DOS in '94.
Yeah,
and
that I
then
know.
later it appeared on the Sega 32X in '95.
That'd probably make the 32X the best version then.
Well, they had a Mac version in '96.
Might be.
Oh,
Ooh,
A Mac version. Wow, weird.
Who cares?
They had the Game Boy Advance version in 2003, and
What?
hey, 2013 it got re-released on Windows.
oh, never mind. Well, okay, fine.
Let's see. Another game.
Yeah, I mean, there are some worthwhile PAL exclusives I can think of. Shenmue 2, Rez, Headhunter, all Dreamcast games. For Saturn, you had like Mega Man X3 came out on Saturn. We never got that,
Oh,
at
yeah,
least on
I
the
have
Saturn.
one.
Yeah, you have X3?
Yes.
Yeah, for the Saturn, we never got that. We got X4 and we got Mega Man 8.
Yeah, and
Although I guess
X4
it did have a Japanese release too.
But X4 isn't actually a PAL one. There is no PAL version of Mega Man X4 on the Saturn. which is
Exactly,
sad.
and we didn't have X3, so we kind of like traded. It was weird.
Strange.
Yeah. Deep Fear, which was like a really good Resident Evil clone. Europe got that. We didn't. And new Ghostbusters 2 for the NES, which is actually like probably like the best Ghostbusters game until the Atari game in like 2009.
Yeah.
Was this Ghostbusters game only released in Europe, and it was made by HAL Laboratories, the guys who went on to make Smash Brothers.
Oh, cool.
They made a Ghostbusters 2 game, and it was actually really good. So
There
it's
was
just
one
it's
of
weird.
them.
I always wonder like why shit like that happens, and I think in a lot of cases, it's either stuff that's regional where it wouldn't make sense to release, like you were saying, based on a game show, even though sometimes apparently that still gets screwed up, or in other cases it probably just has to do with the console coming to an end, and or just maybe some sort of licensing thing. I mean, who knows? Like, I don't know why Deep Fear didn't come out in North America, but maybe it's just because they cut off the Sega Saturn in North America like way earlier than everywhere else. Probably the same thing with the Dreamcast, actually. All right.
Take a
Any
guess
other
at the,
thoughts on? Sorry, go ahead, Chip.
Take a guess at the two PAL exclusive games listed on Wikipedia for the 32X.
I just told you, Dark
Both of
Side
them?
and FIFA
Oh.
96.
Oh, I missed that. Okay, never mind then.
And you even said no because you were cursing out soccer.
Oh yeah, well, I heard the soccer one. I didn't hear the other one.
That's just Remy. That's cold, man. Chip's just.
I know.
You
That
blinded me
is
with the
good.
soccer one, and I lost my mind for a minute.
It's all right, man.
I
My
understand.
heart is shattered, but I will live on.
Apparently, Dark Side was going to be a Sega Neptune game, launch title too.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that's probably one of the few games I would ever consider getting like a reproduction card of, like intentionally. Just because the actual cartridge is like insanely impossible to find, and if you do find it, like I said, 600-pound game. I'm not gonna ever do that.
Yeah.
That and it's region locked.
course.
The
No,
32X. Yeah, the 32X is region locked, even if the Genesis or Mega Drive is the same region that you want. So like, I have a PAL Mega Drive, right? But I
Yeah.
only have an NTSC 32X. So the system will work, but it will not play that game because the 32X games are region locked.
Well, I've
So
seen
you'd have to
32X
also
modded.
PAL 32X. Say again?
I have seen some 32X modded.
Really?
Yeah.
I assume they're American ones then, because there's not much incentive to mod a 32X in North America, since there was only 3 non-American titles, and again, one of them's a sports title, one of them's a game nobody has, and another one is a Japanese game, which is probably not that great anyway. But I guess for you guys that would make more sense, because we got most of the 32X games over here.
Yep. I think actually the people that was modding the 32X was French.
Yeah, that would make sense, because there would be much more of a reason to import them, because we had way more of the consoles and way more of the games. So, yeah.
Yeah, true.
All right, we're coming up on our final subject here. Chip, this was again you. Do you want to bring this one up?
Adam, we
No.
gotta get you to read all of them. Go for it.
Oh, boys. Okay,
good.
all right. This was the subject. Is there any chance a new company can enter the console market? Is it like a living room market, too small, or only a future of gaming, or is it like PC and mobile? Could a company focus on a Nintendo approach where superior hardware isn't needed? Could a console be made on a budget geared towards 16 or 32 bits, simpler games, nostalgia for games, etc.? We previously had discussed developing a new console with regard to choice you would make. This differs in that it would focus on the realism as well as the focus on the modern market of gaming. Essentially what, Chip, I think you were saying here is, could we have a new console that just kind of sits off in a corner and is successful but doesn't try to take down Xbox and PlayStation, right?
Yeah, basically. I mean, sure, you could also look at the whole idea of could any company just enter the market and try to challenge the main ones, but we've kind of hinted at this in other previous podcasts that not really, no. Unless they're on their way out, and then you have a company that comes in and does the next version, right?
I mean, okay, so my opinion on this hasn't changed much, if at all. I just was kind of thinking about some examples, like NVIDIA Shield, Amazon Fire, the Ouya, all kind of made their little attempts, and they all failed. I mean, there are certainly companies that could try if they wanted to. I just don't think they would. Like Samsung or Apple could come in and do something, make some noise, but I don't think they will.
Yeah.
I do agree there is room for the kid in the corner to just kind of, just make some sort of console like that. But we're yet to see that actually work. I mean, Nintendo tries to do that, and even with their name, they can't really make it work.
Yeah.
But I will say, I think it's possible.
Yeah, well, Nintendo makes some weird choices, too.
Yeah, of course they do.
With how they approach things. And we've seen how successful they can be with some things, like Pokemon Go, right?
Which they didn't really make.
No, I mean, that's the beauty of it. They didn't even have to make anything. They just kind of said, and this is a Pokemon company that really gave permission and handled stuff. Nintendo just kind of gave the blessing to it at one point.
No, you didn't hear about this? Nintendo got almost nothing out of Pokemon Go.
I thought they got a third.
They got a third of a third.
It's not much.
Because Pokemon Company owned like a third of that game, and they only own like a third of the Pokemon Company.
I thought it was a third Pokemon Company, a third straight to Nintendo, and a third to Niantic.
No, at least from what I read, it was actually more divided than that, because everyone thought that, and their stocks like blew up, and then everybody realized they didn't actually make the game, and their stocks collapsed. It was a very weird couple of weeks.
Yeah.
As it turns out, they had almost nothing to do with Pokemon Go.
I knew the stock shot up and then dropped, but I thought it's because they had assumed that Nintendo had a bigger cut than just a third. But apparently, okay, interesting.
Yeah, I don't remember all the details, so the specific numbers could be off here, obviously, but yeah, I do remember them. It turned out that Nintendo got almost nothing out of that game.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, but it did show Nintendo at least, hey, you were missing out on a big market of people that would love to have something made by you.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
Yeah.
Or what they think is made by you.
yeah. Well, I mean, like, I guess it doesn't have to be made by Nintendo. It just has to have one of Nintendo's brands, right? Pokemon, Mario, one of those things.
For sure. So, but I mean, that's just essentially saying, let's just fix Nintendo rather than bring NVIDIA in or somebody.
Yeah, well, I mean, to me, it has to be a bit different. To me, jumping in and being the same style as a lot of the consoles are going these days with, let's make it more and more PC architecture, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, if you make it more PC architecture, people are still going to go to the main systems, right? It's like, why would they ever go to your system except just to add to another platform? And it's kind of like why other systems like, what was that, retro VGS? Yeah.
Yes.
It wasn't going to sell because no one's going to make a game exclusive to that system. And to me, the lure would be, okay, you have a little small group make a console, and then kind of they just focus on making games for their own console, right? Get some exclusives, kind of like perform a Nintendo-style approach, and get enough of a small audience where maybe some indie developers would make stuff and put it on the same platform, right? Most likely also having it on other platforms, at least PC, because that's one of the easiest ones to get it on. But that to me is the interesting aspect, especially if you don't bother, pouring a ton of money into the console. Make it really cheap to produce. Make it simplistic. Maybe it's only 16-bit, 32-bit, like in the vein of some of the older consoles. Make it easy to develop for, but don't go crazy on the hardware. But if you do documentation right and you make it easy to produce this stuff, it could be one of those little popular game systems to sell if it's cheap. Get it. Maybe if you can get some local malls. People even go to malls anymore.
I think they do.
Get the grandmothers to pick it up and say, "Oh, I know you wanted the next PS4, but that's a lot of money. So here's this $50 Adam Koralik device. There you go."
Why is it my fault? What did I do? Why is it my crappy clone console?
Don't worry,
I never said clone.
It has to be.
It is a legit.
Well, see, here's what I'm thinking though. What you're describing kind of exists. It's essentially those like Famiclones and like those Sega Genesis game Fire Core bullshit.
Yeah, but
there's
those
a
things
ton
try
of
to
those.
they either emulate games or they try to actually have hardware to play existing games. I'm talking about literally, it's like you could stick a Raspberry Pi in a box. Put some software on it and sell it as a game console. Right?
That does sound nicer than things like the Wii 60 and shit. No, I'm serious. Have you never heard of that? Those are like
No,
those
no, no,
little
no.
like.
I've heard of them. I bought a couple and explicitly sent them to Mark and Derek from Classic Game Room
Oh,
just so
nice.
they review them.
I
They
never
hated me
heard of
for
that.
it.
I don't
I
blame
sent
them.
them like the Zone 80 or something, and it was a ripoff of the Wii. And,
Yeah.
oh man, was it terrible! It was so funny to watch that video.
There's a lot of really bad Wii clones.
Of course.
Oh, hilarious. Yeah, I mean, to me, it's just one of those interesting markets. And also, would it be a portable or would it be a home console? I think it has to be a home console because portables, people just seem to either stick with their phone, or they have the occasional hardcore gamers that I say hardcore in quotes. They get like a Nintendo 3DS. Ignoring the Vita, which no one in the U.S. seems to have anymore. I still have mine sitting around. Although when I can, I use the PS TV instead because that's a lot easier.
Hey, since we were talking about the charts and you just brought up Vita, that's an interesting point. Over 10,000 units in Japan sold last week. Over 8,000 units in Europe.
Congratulations.
140 in the U.S.
Yeah.
That is like Xbox One Japanese numbers.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like it's just bad marketing. I feel, they had a bunch of great games on the system. At least I'm a fan of RPGs. Now they've got a lot of visual novels, a lot of repetitive JRPGs on there that don't do anything worthwhile, but it's still an interesting system with some great games. Like I remember when it first came out, what was it? Persona 4 Golden was like one of the flagship titles people were grabbing on that system. That's the reason I got it, was I wanted that game on it. And they haven't really pushed anything that would be of interest to North American audience that I've seen. But then again, they may be trying, and I just haven't seen it because the marketing hasn't reached me, right?
Yeah.
I
That's
can
going to be an
just
interesting platform down the road because I think Sony quasi made it open platform, which is how there's so many of these like games that suddenly get like little independent runs for it.
Oh yeah. I've seen a bunch of those now.
I would hate to be a PS Vita collector in general, but also someone who is a PS Vita collector in another country, because a lot of the time these like small indie game releases for the physical ones for the Vita only come out in the States. Mm-hmm. Like not even Canada, like just the States. That's really weird. It's because it's doing the worst here. But I guess that kind of brings it full circle to that whole Japanese thing where they put so much effort into a place where they can't win. In the case of the Vita, they put so much effort into a place where they can't win. And for collectors, that's just really odd and annoying.
Interesting,
No thoughts on that? I think there's something to that. It's like they're fighting the hardest in a place they definitely can't win.
Yeah, it's there's got to be someone that's really smart in that area that knows why they're doing that. But it just seems like you would want to just drop that area and just focus on the other ones that are working, and maybe try to enter some new markets. Right? Try to push your console in markets that may not have that big of a gaming community, but maybe see if you can just get some attention there. Right?
Agreed.
Good work.
South America is one that's definitely lacking. Heck, you still haven't. What is it? Brazil? I keep forgetting this. Brazil has the
Brazil.
Master System.
They're still supporting the Sega Master System down there.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, so if you could just win over places like that are still keeping a certain system alive, you'd probably make a lot of money from it, presumably.
Well, without getting too political here, the situation, at least with Brazil, is that they have a high tax system on non-Brazilian products, particularly Japanese, American, European products. Mm-hmm. So, like, the PlayStation 4, right, launched in the U.S., it was like $400. It was like the equivalent of like $1,800 when it launched there.
Whoa.
Because you're paying like insane markups on the fact that it's an imported device, which is why they support these older platforms for so long, because they aged beyond the point where that's doable.
I wonder if that'll change now that the Brazilian president was impeached.
I don't know. I think it's probably one of those things where they're going to have to roll it back slowly through many years of bureaucracy. I mean, I don't know how Brazil's government works exactly, but I guess the basic point I'm trying to make is it's going to be hard to crack South America for a long time, because a lot of the countries down there all have that same kind of problem, at least that I know of. Except for French Guiana, of course, Remi, that's all you. That's part of the EU there. Or how's that pronounced? French Guiana?
In French, it's Guinea.
French Guiana. Oh, it's your territory. You can call it whatever the hell you want.
Oh, so well, of course.
Yeah, no, it's all Remi's. That's his own place.
I live there. Of course.
Yeah, that is such a weird part of your country. I don't know how much you know, and not that that really matters to this whole conversation, Chip, but it's so weird. There's this big chunk of France that just exists in South America, the way Alaska exists, like way the hell detached from the U.S.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's people that lived in Alaska, and it's always weird to hear them talk about living in Alaska.
Yeah, I've been to Alaska. It's a cool place, but it's...
I see what you did there.
I make a lot of unintentional puns, don't I?
It's cool there.
Yeah, I never intend that shit. But, yeah, anyway, so... what the hell were we talking about? Like South America Master System games?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I can actually... I'll save this story for another time, but I was at the Missouri Game Con, and this guy was talking to me about how Nintendo got into South America, and it's actually kind of an interesting story. Maybe I could tell you that now, or I guess I could save that. What do you want? What do you think?
Go for it, Adam.
Go.
You sure?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Go for it, man.
All right, so this guy was basically telling me like the history of Nintendo in South America was that they wanted products down there, but that because of all the reasons I stated, they couldn't really do that. And Nintendo, at the height of their success with the NES, when you see a Nintendo display or whatever in a store, Nintendo doesn't just send those out. Like they force the store to buy those from them. So like you want the new NES game in stock, you have to also buy all our marketing crap to stick around it. And that can be like thousands and thousands of dollars. But in South America, they were like unwilling to do that. And so Nintendo didn't really know what to do. So they actually hired a team, as they called it, just to handle all of South America. The team consisted of 3 people. And they were supposed to just figure out how to sell stuff in South America. So they said they were so obviously understaffed and they were unable to like go down there and actually enforce anything, so that they would just look the other way on a lot of things, which is why you ended up with a lot of these like weird pirate carts and stuff in South America. But at the same time, South America was kind of interesting because they basically used at the time like the same region coding and artwork and everything that North America had. So when a game would come out in North America, they would often ship it down to South America, but a lot of them never even got to the store shelves. They just ended up sitting in warehouses in random places. So there was actually people discovering that there were like whole crates full of essentially NTSC copies of Stadium Events just sitting in a box somewhere rotting in Brazil.
Huh.
Stadium
crazy.
Events being an NES game worth like $30,000 in the box,
Yep.
stuff like that.
Goldmine.
Flintstones, Adventures at Dinosaur Peak, like a lot of the rarest
Another
games
one.
were all they were sitting in boxed copies there in South America because they couldn't move them back in the day and they just didn't know what to do with them. Poor records were kept, and the guy was also telling me it was really funny because like I was just saying, they had to buy all the artwork and stuff, right? But in South America, they would just refuse to buy it. So they would make their own artwork. So these guys would be getting footage back from the official release of Super Mario Brothers 2 or whatever in Brazil. And there would be some guy in his homemade Mario suit representing all of Nintendo down there. And it would just look like ridiculous. And it was embarrassing for them, but they couldn't enforce it any better. So they didn't really do anything with it. So it's just kind of an interesting story because no one ever knows about how Nintendo or any video game company really operates in South America for the most part.
Yeah, it's one of those mystery areas.
Yeah.
It's like
Sorry
South
to
America,
all South American viewers. Tell us more about yourselves.
Yeah, I'd
Yeah,
be very interested to
come
hear
on.
what kind of for gamers in South America, what kind of experiences they have. I mean, are they mostly PC now, or do they have certain consoles? Can they buy consoles from stores that are like what kind of what kind of regions do they support, or do they just import like North American? Yeah, I have no idea how that works.
Yeah, so let us know, guys. You're in the comments. I know there's a lot of you that watch, so tell us.
Please.
With that said, though, I think we're over our time, so I think it's a good time to wrap things up.
Okay.
So I want to say a special thanks, of course, to Remi here, because it seems like, Remi, you're not going to be back for a while, possibly.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you so much for not only supporting the Patreon, but also supporting the show and being a fan and everything. And of course, you're still our friend. Don't get us wrong. We're still going to chat. But, yeah, thank you for being on the show, man. I really appreciate it.
No, it was my pleasure.
Yeah, Remi, I really enjoyed talking to you. You're a really fun guy, and hearing all
Thanks.
the crazy things that you have going on in France and all the interesting facts about Europe is really cool. If I can ever get over to Europe with Adam, we can all get together and do something. I don't know what it'll be though.
We'll party, man. We'll make
party.
it happen.
Yeah.
I still think we should all
Fun.
meet up in Montreal. It's neutral ground for all of us.
Again.
Remy can translate. We'll be all set.
Yeah.
Perfect.
It'd be fun.
Yeah. Plus, then Remy can get out of Europe for once, and he can check
Oh.
out Canada or something.
That's
check
true,
out
yeah.
North America. It'd be fun. But yeah, it's been really awesome having a European perspective on things on the show, because that's nice. You don't want just a show with just two Americans, because then we'll sound like assholes.
Yeah, Remy, wait to see the
that's
next
okay.
one. You'll see the ratings drop terribly.
Yeah, without
No,
you, man,
come
it's
on.
not gonna be as cultured. Like it goes from like it had like fine wine and cheese down to like we're just eating hot dogs here. Like,
Hey, tacos, man, tacos.
Aw.
yeah, tacos.
Oh, yeah. Tacos all the way.
Oh man.
All right, man. Well, you're welcome back anytime. All right. So please, hopefully you can come back at some point. That would be great.
Me too.
Okay. Thank you very much, man. And yeah, so I guess that's it for this. Still, we really suck at titles. I mean, Remy's gone through a whole run and we still didn't get a title.
You can call it the Remi Remembrance Podcast.
Remembrance?
Oh
Remi
my
rinse?
goodness, the jokes.
God, it's punishment.
All the
yeah.
puns.
I still like Chip In. I still think that's the greatest
Me
one.
too. Come
Uh,
on. As a departing gift, please.
I mean,
Can we call
Adam,
this episode Chip In?
You can
Yeah.
call it whatever you want. It doesn't matter to me. It's your fans are gonna be angry.
No.
Everybody will be all right.
They're cool.
All right, well, thank you very much, everybody, for listening. And if you ever want to hear this earlier, this goes up on Patreon pretty much the day after we record it, and then it goes public a few weeks later. So thank you, everybody, for listening. And thank you,
Oh.
guys. Thank you, Chip. Especially thank you, Remy. Thank you very much.
It'll
It's been
also
awesome.
be on iTunes and Podbean as well, but it'll
Oh,
be those are released at the time of the public release.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.